Thank you, Kaylin. Thanks for that guidance. I appreciate you. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Crystal McDonald, and I'm the Director of Account Management and Workforce Development. I'm happy to kick off our Commercial Real Estate Roundtable, our spring update. And today I'll start by sharing our agenda and then introducing a VIP here at the DCSEU. But first, let's take a look at our agenda for the day. One of our goals is just to reconnect and update you on the new and refreshed incentives available to the commercial real estate market here in the district, and to remind you that DCSEU is a key resource and partner as we all pursue and comply with the DC Clean Energy initiatives. We are happy to have one of our partners join us in this conversation as well. Teresa Bacchus from the Building Innovation Hub. She will join us to convey what you need to know regarding the next steps and success with BEPS. But first, it is my pleasure to introduce to you the new Managing Director of the DCSEU, Mr. Ernest Jolly. Please welcome Ernest. Following Ernest, you will hear from Teresa, our friend and partner at the Building Innovation Hub. Ernest, you have the mic.
Thank you very much, Crystal. Good afternoon, everyone. We really very much appreciate you taking the time to join us to have this conversation, provide feedback to us so that we can make sure that we're doing our part to help move forward the objectives of BEPS and to be a real engaging partner. I'm happy to have come on board on January 3rd of this year as Managing Director. I come to DCSEU from DC Water. I served there in a number of capacity, and most recently as the Energy Chief, and I've had an opportunity to be engaged with DCSEU as a part of so much of the work we do at DC Water. I also come to DC Water by way of having been Executive Vice President at the University of the District of Columbia, and in that capacity I had an opportunity to really work across the full spectrum of the district in a different way. I happen to be an engineer by academic training. I am also a certified energy manager, certified energy auditor, and I have a lot of passion for what we do in the educational skill development, building improvement, environmental space, and how we work to make the economics of businesses go, because people are only better when there's an economic opportunity. So working with all of you is really a passion of mine, and it's full circle in my journey. So I say welcome to all of you. I remain available. All of our team know that I have an open accessibility to help them, to help their account managers, to be accessible to you. And so just to give you a quick snapshot of what we do as our goals, we focus on the combined source of energy savings aimed at reducing the MMBTU usage, green jobs, working on local the economy development. Renewable energy is a major piece of what we do. It's solar for all, and community solar is reflected in that. We really have an overarching desire to make sure that we are helping capture, and through the work we do with you and others, the greenhouse gas reductions, and we're focused on helping build local businesses, create skill sets for our DC residents, and really help in deep energy retrofits. So that's a quick snapshot, but you're going to hear from the experts today, and they are as open or more so even than I am. So enjoy yourself, ask your questions, and let us know how we can help move the process forward to serve you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ernest, and thank you to the DCSEU for partnering with us and for hosting this event today. Hi, everybody. My name is Teresa Bacchus. I'm the director of the Building Innovation Hub based here in DC. And today I'm going to be talking, I guess you could say, set the BEPS stage. I'm going to talk not about the basics of BEPS, because we've been talking about that extensively for the last couple of years, but I'm going to provide some background on the most immediate deadlines and timelines that you need to be aware of and that you need to take action on, and the compliance pathways that you need to understand in order to take action on those deadlines, and then talk a little bit about the tools available to help you and the importance of the work that the DCSEU is doing. Next slide, please. But first, a brief overview for those who don't know us. We are, as I said, located in the district. We're a program of a national nonprofit called the Institute for Market Transformation, but our focus here at the Hub is on DC. We support the building industry, private sector, building teams, building owners, building managers, really anyone who is involved in the operation, the design and operation and improvement of buildings. So we are quite literally here to help you. It's our job to be in this middle space between the government and the private sector. And we partner very closely with the DCSEU on a daily basis to make sure that you have what you need in order to be successful with the BEPS and with energy efficiency. Next, please. So where do we fit in? As I said, we partner very closely with the DCSEU. We also work closely with the DC Green Bank that provides low interest loans and financing for projects. We work with many of the departments in the district, specifically the Department of Buildings, the Department of Small Business, and others. And we also, of course, all work closely with the DC Department of Energy and the Environment to, we share what we're hearing from the market in terms of your needs and what you need to be supported when it comes to BEPS. We pass that feedback on, and we are able to sort of hear what's happening at the district level so that we can translate what's coming down the pike for you as early as possible so that you can best prepare. Next, please. So why are we even talking about this today? That's a great question. We here in DC, if you've been following, over the last few years, the discussions around our climate crisis and the goals that the city has set for itself to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, the city has some pretty ambitious targets, and that's to ultimately become carbon neutral or zero greenhouse gases by emissions by 2045. And the way that we are going to get there is with a multi-pronged approach, but you can see here that buildings, and I apologize, the slide is a little cut off, but buildings account for, by and large, the vast amount of emissions in the district, over 70%. So if we are really serious about reducing the negative impacts of climate change, supporting communities, increasing our resilience, we need to address our existing building stock. Next, please. And the way that we do that is through BEPS as one regulatory tool. There are also a number of other ways that this district is addressing the existing building stock. Regulatory and not, there's obviously other methods and means, including incentives, and you'll hear a lot about some really exciting incentives soon from my DCSEU colleagues. But beyond the regulations, we at the Hub really feel that energy efficiency, reducing your energy use, makes good business sense. Obviously, it saves you money. Reducing your energy usage means you're paying less for your building to operate. It's not just utility bills, but we believe it's a really good return on investment. We are seeing more and more that customers, tenants, individuals, citizens are expecting it. There's really a groundswell of awareness about not just sustainability issues and climate issues, but around energy efficiency, and the demand is increasing. We know that a higher performing building is also results in improved occupant well-being, such as things like ventilation, lighting, amenities. And so we believe that energy efficiency and improved occupant well-being really go hand in hand. And we also believe that, and we know that, as our buildings continue, as we continue to build, as our existing buildings continue to age, and as this regulatory landscape in the district continues to evolve, addressing energy efficiency and the resilience of our building also means future-proofing. Insulation, and I have here, pardon the pun, against future regulations and potential fines. So there are a lot of benefits to this work beyond helping the climate. Next, please. And really briefly, who does BEPS apply to? So as a reminder, we are in cycle 1 right now, BEPS cycle 1. The current cycle applies to buildings 50,000 square feet and up. but it will ultimately, I should say, private buildings 50,000 square feet and up, and DC owned buildings 10,000 square feet and up. But as you can see here, it will eventually apply to all private buildings as well above 10,000 square feet. And the BEPS is based on benchmarking. And 2 of these 3 tranches of buildings have been benchmarking now. The 25,000 square foot and up cohort of buildings has been benchmarking. This will be its 2nd year submitting on April 3rd. So as you can see, if it doesn't currently apply to the buildings near you, it will very soon. Next, please. I really want to impress upon everyone here that the first major BEPS milestone is on Monday. That is right, literally around the corner. Monday, April 3rd is the deadline by which all of the buildings that are subject to BEPS need to have chosen or to choose a compliance pathway. If buildings are not meeting the BEPS right now, they must choose a compliance pathway. And you can see here, April 3rd is that, like I said, that date to choose. You have 4 pathways to choose from, and I'll talk a little bit about those in a minute. The other thing I want to call out here is that April of every year is also the deadline to submit buildings benchmarking. Starting next year, that benchmarking data will need to be verified by a third party. We highly recommend that that data be verified now. That's going to set you up for success later. It also means that you have the best, most accurate information on your building so that you know, have more information about which pathway is the best one for your building. Next, please. So this is what the compliance cycle looks like for buildings that do not currently meet the BEPS. They will enter the cycle, which has already happened. The pathway selection and approval will happen on Monday or by Monday, hopefully not on Monday, but at least by then. And then after you select a pathway, that is when the pathway specific requirements, reporting and performance kick in. And for some of the pathways, there are interim milestones that need to be met between now and the end of a BEPS cycle in the end of 2026. So don't think just because you select a pathway on Monday, you're done with the BEPS. If you're not meeting the BEPS and you have to select a pathway, then after you select the pathway, you need to get started on making your building retrofits. Well, first of all, understanding how your building is performing. Where is your energy being used? What does your energy data look like? Get an energy audit. We highly, highly recommend that. And I'll talk about that in a minute, more about the energy audits. But there's a lot of work that needs to happen between April 3rd of 2023 and the end of December 2026. It might sound like a long time, but it's really not. When you back into the different interim milestones and the fact that all buildings are going to need to be benchmarking every year, especially in 2026, 2025, and 2026, so that the district can confirm that you have met the requirements that you committed to in the here on April 3rd. And so in order to do that, you have to make sure that all of the measures that you take to retrofit a building, or perhaps you're switching out lighting, or you're doing a number of different things, those have to be in place so that you have a full year of benchmarking data. So they have to be in place a full year before you, or should I say, by the time you benchmark, which means that you need to design and install those measures. And so as you can see, this time might feel like a long time, but it's really not. So as soon as you select a pathway, get in touch with DCSEU. They will help you understand how they can support your building throughout the next couple of years to meet these interim milestones. Next, please. So here are the performance pathways, or should I say the principal compliance pathways. The performance pathway, the prescriptive pathway, and the standard target pathway. The performance pathway is eligible, or should I say all property types are eligible for this pathway. This is as it says in the name, a performance-based pathway. And essentially what this pathway says is that if you do not meet the BEPS, you need to reduce your site energy usage or energy use intensity by 20%. There's really no interim reporting requirements to the district. You just need to figure out how you're going to save 20%, implement those changes, whatever they may be in your building, and then benchmark to demonstrate that you have reduced the energy usage by at least 20%. The standard target pathway, jumping to the right side of the screen here, is also a performance-based pathway. This is not based on reducing your energy usage, but it is based on improving your Energy Star score. So this is a pathway that you might choose, say, if your property type is relatively close to the median. So if you need to be at a Energy Star score of 71, say you're at a 69, you might decide to choose this pathway because, again, you will be benchmarking, but what they will be looking at is, are you at or above that Energy Star median? And then the third principal compliance pathway is called the prescriptive pathway. So this is, as it says, it's not performance-based, it's action-based. And it requires that you complete an approved list of energy efficiency measures, and you report on those measures and you provide documentation to the district in order to bring your building into compliance. And the measures that are that you can pursue and that will be approved by DC are roughly equivalent to the performance of the other pathways. So these are the principal pathways. And if you go to the next slide, please, there's a little bit more information on what are called the alternative compliance pathways. If one of those situations is not the best situation for your building, there are other options for you. You can have a custom pathway. Here we are, it's March 28th, and so it might be a little tough at this point to get a custom pathway approved by the district in time if you're just now considering a custom ACP. But the district does understand that these principal pathways, might not necessarily apply to all buildings. So they want to build in flexibility into the system, and they recognize that there are so many nuances to these buildings. So they want to be sure that they have as many opportunities as possible for you to do what is right for your building. There are also opportunities to adjust your baseline. The circumstances really vary, and you would need to provide documentation to the district as to why you think that a baseline adjustment is most pertinent. There's also recognition for historic buildings, for buildings that are considered new construction, so that were new in 2019 and 2020. There are special considerations for campuses. And then there's also what's called a deep energy retrofit, and that includes a few different options where if you go beyond the 20%, you reach extended levels of energy savings, hence the name deep energy and extended and accelerated savings, you will essentially earn some credit, if you will, towards future compliance cycles. So there's a recognition by the district that says, as you're thinking about these capital improvements, if you want to go further than what's required for cycle 1, we will reward you by essentially, saying if you meet, certain thresholds above the 20%, to give you some guarantee of some assurances for future BEPS cycles. Next, please. So here's some things to know. It looks like my slides got a little messed up here, so I apologize. Hopefully you can read it. But there are extensions and delays allowed, and you must apply for those. They will be approved on a case-by-case basis, and you need to make the case to the district as to why you will need an extension, either of an interim milestone or a delay once we get towards the end of the compliance cycle. It is possible, but again, you need to provide justification and documentation to the city as to why you might need those extensions or delays. And then we get to enforcements. And this is not the fun part, but it is the reality. And it's something that you really need to be aware of, because there are interim fines between now and the end of the compliance cycle or the end of the BEPS cycle if you do not meet interim milestones. So if you don't choose a pathway by April 3rd, there is a potential that the building will be fined. And if you do not choose a pathway by April 3rd, there is a high likelihood that the district will choose a pathway for you. There are also penalties, and penalties are based on a building's square footage or gross floor area. The alternative compliance pathway is the one that the main one that we discuss, and that is at the end of the compliance cycle or the BEPS cycle. If a building does not meet the requirements for their chosen compliance pathway, they'll be fined up to 10%, should I say $10 per square foot, or $7.5 million. And it's important to know that that is the maximum fine. So if you do make some progress towards your energy reduction goals, but you don't get all the way there, your fine will be adjusted based on how much progress you have made towards your ultimate compliance goals. And there is a calculation in the BEPS guidebook that tells us exactly how those fines are calculated. I haven't included it here because it's a little complicated, but I will put in the chat a link to those resources that spell out how to calculate those fines. Next. Okay, keep going. Here is a good snapshot. I think I saw a question come through in the chat about how can you tell if your building is meeting the BEPS or not. There are a couple of websites that you can check out. I recommend the BEPS disclosure. That is the definitive list of which buildings the BEPS applies to, and if those buildings are or are not meeting the BEPS, meaning which buildings do not have to do anything before April 3rd and which buildings need to choose a pathway by April 3rd. because again, if you're not meeting the BEPS, that's when you need to choose a pathway. So if you go to opendata.dc.gov, there is a building energy performance standards data set within there, and you can search by building address, pull it right up. It'll have a little window that pops up and it'll tell you what your BEPS standard is, what you are performing at, and how far away you are from the BEPS target. If for some reason your address isn't listed or it's blank, there could be a few different reasons why that is the case. I'm happy to help you figure out and troubleshoot. I'll put my email in the chat too, and we can kind of take a look together and see what we can find out. Next. So we also have some tools to help you. The Building Innovation Hub has developed a number of different tools, but I wanted to highlight two that are really pertinent to this April 3rd deadline. So we have something called a BEPS Compliance Pathway Wizard, and I joke around and call it the Harry Potter sorting hat or the choose your own adventure. But essentially what it is, you answer a series of simple, distinct questions that kind of walks you through your building characteristics. And at the end, we make a recommendation as to which pathway we think is the most appropriate for your building. We also then have companion pathway timelines, wherein you can look at each pathway that I talked about previously, see if there are interim milestones, see what documentation you need to provide at what point. So for example, if you choose the standard target pathway, what you need to submit on April 3rd, that's all listed in our timelines. It also has for the prescriptive pathway, everything you would need to submit between now and the end of the compliance cycle. So for example, next year in April, you need to submit an actions report, and that's listed in here and exactly what it needs to include with links to the full guidebook for more information. Next. This is not a pretty slide, I apologize, but these are some really great DOEE resources to be aware of, and they're live linked here in the slides so that you can just click on them and go straight to the page. But this takes you to the BEPS knowledge base, or the building performance knowledge base. It has a ton of resources on benchmarking and BEPS. It has great energy audit resources, so templates and how-tos and FAQs. It also has, this is the website where you will go to submit your compliance pathway on April 3rd. You would submit a help desk ticket, and I'll put a link again in the chat for you once I'm done here talking about exactly where that is, so that you know where you need to go to submit a pathway. It's very simple. It's an online form, and you can do it all on that knowledge base. There's also a number of other great recordings. The full guidebook is there, including some recent updates that were made to clarify various components of the BEPS, including another pathway for campuses. And there's, I know I'm leaving something out, but it's a really great website. Check it out. The links are all here. And next slide. And I think this is my final slide, but I want to, I'm not going to talk too much to this because we have a whole host of experts from the DCSEU on our call today, but I want to give a shout out to these resources and these incentives, because one thing we do at the Hub is we are constantly gathering feedback from the community and from the industry. And something we hear over and over again is, how am I going to pay for these? How, what incentives are there to support me? If I'm making all these great retrofits and improvements, is there a way to recapture any of the funds from making those improvements? And so I really want to highlight the programs you're going to be hearing about next. Specifically, they will help you save money while you save energy, and know how your building uses energy so that you can do something to improve it and save money while doing that. Take advantage of a lot of these programs: pay for performance, energy audit incentive offer, etc. A level 2 ASHRAE energy audit is required for the prescriptive pathway selection, but we highly recommend it for all buildings, even those buildings that do meet the BEPS right now, because it's going to give you a lot of really key information as to where your building is using energy, things to think about in the future, because after BEPS cycle 1, there will be BEPS cycle 2 and cycle 3 and so on. And so an investment in an energy audit now is going to potentially save you huge in the long run. And also, I really recommend you connect directly with the DCSEU account managers, and they're here on this call because they have a wealth of information, and there's technical experts to assist you with next steps. And their job is to connect you to resources. So next slide, I think that's it. And I will do one plug to sign up for our newsletter. This is the way you can stay up to date with all of the latest changes to BEPS and everything and like that. We'll be pushing that out to our newsletter subscribers. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Crystal, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Teresa. That was a wealth of information. And so again, we will share the slide deck following this meeting. So how the DCSEU can help? Actually, we can help in several ways, and that's through our incentives and technical support. We have a deep bench of qualified engineers ready to assist our customers. Also, as Teresa just mentioned, we do assign account managers to each of our commercial building owners and property managers. If you don't have an account manager assigned currently, we will drop a link to our Ask Our Experts page where you can sign up with one of our account managers, and you'll see generally the commercial sectors they cover or the vertical markets, but everyone works with commercial buildings. So we're looking forward to rebuilding relationships and starting new relationships with you all. So most of you are familiar with our rebates and custom incentives for energy efficient equipment and measures that are above code. The goal is for the high efficiency measures to help you improve your building energy performance. Today, I'll give you a high-level overview of our newest offer. We launched the Energy Audit Incentive offer in late February, which is showing a strong uptick in the first few weeks of the program. So we're thrilled about that. And so, the question is, why even do an energy audit? First of all, it will support the needs of especially those non-BEPS compliant buildings to help identify where there's efficiency opportunities for improvement leading to the improvement of building energy performance. You'll gain insights on those, where the gaps are, and we can specifically target those gaps to prioritize and implement programs. And then it will help you to drive kind of your long-term pipeline for the projects that are needed where necessary. If you have an extremely long project project pipeline, we can work with you to phase those projects over time in terms of DCSEU incentives. So those are the kinds of details you could work out with your account manager. And then, we help you create the actionable projects that will lead to long-term energy and GHG savings. So in terms of the Energy Audit Incentive, we divided in two categories. For those buildings above 50,000 square feet that do not meet BEPS, there's an incentive of 5 cents per square foot, capped at $15,000, to hopefully defray some of the costs leading to that are required for the ASHRAE Level 2 energy audit. And then on the other side of that, for those buildings 50,000 square feet and above, the incentive is 2.5 cents per square foot. And that's quite frankly the simple dividing line, the compliant versus the non-compliant buildings. There are a limit of 2 energy audits per property manager or management company. And as we go along the program, we'll see how this program how we can distribute the funds. Only if we have funds left over at the end of the year will we be able to go back and incentivize additional buildings per customer. But again, funds are available on a first come, first served basis, and we're doing as much as we can with the funds that we have available to us. So again, that's another reason to stay in contact with your account manager. But for now, starting out, the limit is 2 audits per customer. Next slide. So customers pursuing the BEPS prescriptive pathway will need to complete an audit that complies with requirements outlined by the District Department of Energy and Environment. And Teresa just mentioned that. The DCSEU cannot guarantee audits that it provides incentives for will meet these requirements. But what we do have are some requirements for the auditors. Rick Fleury is the point of contact to initiate the review process to ensure auditors satisfy those requirements to submit a valid ASHRAE level 2 energy audit. If you have questions for Rick, Rick, I think Rick is on the line. Rick, if you can post your link for folks to follow up regarding the auditor requirements, I'd appreciate that. But otherwise, please know that this slide gives you the credentials that are required to submit and perform the valid ASHRAE level 2 audits. So we have credentials like the MFBA from the Buildings Performance Institute, from multifamily property types, the CEM, of course, the CEA is another certification from AEE. And then you have the 2 ASHRAE credentials that are listed here. Additional relevant ASHRAE, BPI, or ResNet certifications may be submitted for DCSEU consideration, but will require DCSEU pre-approval. Hence the need to contact Rick Fleury if you have any questions about the auditor and the capacity of the auditor to submit a valid ASHRAE level 2 audit report. And I'll hand it off to Patty Boyd to discuss some measures that might help you.
Hi, everyone. Can you see me? My camera seems to be doing funny things. Try again. Well, okay, there I am. Hi, everybody. My name is Patty Boyd, and I'm Director of Technology and Innovation here at the DCSEU, and I'm going to be talking about a couple of our we like to think they're innovative measures that you might want to participate with us in addition to the audit offering that Crystal just described. Next slide, please. So we originally rolled out our Pay for Performance program in around 2019, and we were very excited to have this tool in our tool belt. But the tool depends on baseline energy data. So we rolled it out in 2019, and then COVID came, and the baseline energy use changed. Frankly, so it kind of went on hold for a little while, but now we're in the process of revamping it. So what it is it's a savings analysis tool. So what we do is we look at utility level data, like your PEPCO data, 15-minute interval data, or Washington gas data, even on a monthly basis. If you make very large changes, we can look at the gas data and then put that through this method of savings analysis. But what we're doing is looking at a baseline condition. We perform a regression analysis on the baseline condition. Usually the independent variables in the regression analysis are weather. It could be occupancy. It could be other things depending on what your building is. But in the district, for the most part, especially with CRE, it's very weather dependent. Your energy usage is very weather dependent. So that regression analysis creates a model of energy usage that can then be compared to any future use. So we get that baseline model, and then changes are made, whatever the changes are. And we wait a certain amount of time, and then we start looking at the new energy data from the PEPCO data. This can also be done with sub-metering on some larger systems. We can do a regression analysis. But we look at the new data, and the new data should be less energy usage than what the baseline data is, and then we pay an incentive based on the difference between those two numbers. Okay, so if you could go to the next slide, Kaylin, please. So why pay for performance? Well, it definitely incentivizes continuous energy improvements. And where capital upgrades, a lot of times we can do traditional engineering calculations to estimate what the savings will be. There are some measures that we don't have standard tools to be able to analyze the savings from those measures. If you make operations improvements, then we can use that too. So if you do setbacks, if you change the hours of operations of pieces of equipment, if you do maintenance and clean filters or things like that, anything that causes energy to decrease, but it's not very easy to estimate through normal energy efficiency calculations, this method really helps. One of the examples I like to give is we were working with a very large federal building, and they came to us and said, we are going to do duct sealing of our HVAC ducts. Can you provide an incentive for that? And we, there's no way to say, well, how leaky are your ducts, right? Like nobody really knows. But they went in, they did this duct sealing, and they came back to us about a year later and said, wow, our energy use really decreased. Well, we performed this method of savings analysis and found that they saved almost 900 megawatt hours annually from doing the duct sealing, and we were able to provide an incentive based on that. So it encourages creative solutions beyond the traditional projects. It aligns with BEPS compliance actions, many of the ones that you're doing. And like I said, controls, setback changes. If you're doing, I saw the mention of envelope, weatherization, window changes, or other sort of sealing like the duct sealing, and any sort of retrocommissioning, recommissioning, continuous commissioning, whatever your rose is a rose word is that you would like to use. We can try to analyze your data to see what the energy savings is from those measures. Next slide. So the way we do this, we have incentive agreements for all of our incentives and rebates. Rebate, you would fill out an application. Incentives, you would get an incentive letter such as this, where we promise to pay a certain amount of money if we see a certain amount of savings. So what would happen here is we would agree on an estimated savings value that can come from a vendor, that could come from a back of the envelope type analysis. Like, for example, we think this measure will save 10% of annual, annual energy use, and we can use that to develop an estimated incentive. We can get it in our system because we need to forecast our incentives through the program year, so it helps us. But a final incentive would be decided after the performance period. So we see how much energy you actually, if you didn't save 10%, but you actually save 7%, we could pay the incentive up to the 7% because we didn't see that extra 3. Or what if you ended up saving 15? It might be that we have additional money in our budget where we could heighten the incentive. And as always, we always need to have a new IA signed. That is required if the project does not complete in the fiscal year that we're in. We would start out with a new incentive on the next year. Okay, so that's it for pay for performance. Next slide, please. So this might be interesting to some of you. I feel like this is maybe not necessarily for the CRE group. I hope you know that we have energy efficiency rebates for controls, evaporator fan motors, for smaller pieces of refrigeration equipment. But one of the things I'm working on and that we would like to roll out here at DCSEU is refrigerant management. So we're actually looking at the refrigerants themselves and looking at that, because if any of the normal refrigerants that aren't natural refrigerants have a very high global warming potential. And so we are trying to look into ways to decrease the leaks, frankly, in these systems. So we are going to be doing a pilot, and then we're going to hopefully roll out full-time incentives for manual or permanent refrigeration leak detection and remediation, as well as rebates for natural refrigerant equipment. So now they're using CO2, they're using different types of refrigeration in the new systems that are coming out that have a very low global warming potential. And we want to encourage investment in those pieces of equipment. So that is coming soon. And those are the two offerings that I was here to talk about, pay for performance and refrigeration. And now I will turn it back to Crystal. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Patty. So I'll pick up on the rebates and the technical support. It's a little bit of inside baseball but it does help you to understand the process that we go through to deliver the best incentives that we can deliver based on the budget we have available. So our focus, of course, is on our commercial rebates. And in our prescriptive program, we have our rebates for the equipment list you see here: lighting, motors, HVAC, refrigeration, and of course, food service and vending equipment. We do have the instant lighting rebates. Um, and then you see under custom rebate where we will look for those operational improvements along with the equipment upgrade and cost-effective electric. We are no longer incentivizing gas equipment, so we need to update our slide there. But on the electric side, we will definitely evaluate the electric equipment that is eligible for a rebate. On the no-cost technical support side, as I mentioned, we do have a deep bench in our engineering pool. Our technical services can include, but are not limited to, like review of your utility bills and AMI data to understand building energy use. We provide a reality check to vendors' equipment design and commissioning claims. We will help the customer review audits and walkthroughs at customer sites and follow up with relevant recommendations that the customer should consider. Of course, working with your preferred contractor and vendors. We're all partners in this effort, all to improve the energy efficiency at your site. Our engineers will also develop savings estimate and thus economic benefits based on conservative analysis based on a conservative analysis methodology to implement more efficient equipment. And then based on your energy savings, we create an appropriate incentive amount to offset the incremental cost of adding such equipment. So keep in mind, our incentives do not cover the entire cost of the equipment, but it's designed to cover that incremental cost between standard and energy efficient equipment. This slide describes the process flow through each of our incentive program tracks, we refer to them as. Your assigned account manager will help you through this process, but this just gives you a general idea of how we take your project through a project life cycle within DCSEU. So you'll have your process for the prescriptive incentives under the business energy rebates. That's what the BER program is. New construction or total renovation projects. Those are the more comprehensive building analysis. And as you can see, for new construction, we ask for access to your lead data, read-only access. And then for equipment upgrades, where you're looking at existing equipment that you're retiring early for more efficient equipment. And then the last column is for the pay for performance program or pay for performance offer that Patty just described. So this kind of demystifies the process. And again, the account manager will help you navigate through this process. And just quickly, while we have you gathered here, just wanted to bring your attention to a training program that we are implementing on behalf of the Department of Energy and Environment and the Department of Small and Local Business Development. Next slide. This program we refer to as Train Green helps to expand the capacity of our local CBEs, certified business enterprises, small businesses, minority-owned businesses, and the like. So what we do is offer training to this, primarily to the CBEs and CBE eligible firms, along with district residents. We offer training in the space of HVAC, solar, building operations and maintenance, and healthy buildings. We offer courses at no cost to the participant. At the end of that course, we will cover an exam that leads to a nationally recognized certification or credential. And we do cover courses in auditing, We have a CEM on demand and other courses that you may be interested in, your staff or contractors that you work with. And all of this information is posted on our website. You see the link there, dcseu.com/train green. We have a wealth of information there, a description of the course pathways, and we accept participants that are like entry level, intermediate, and advanced for those folks who have quite a bit of experience in the field and just looking to get more in depth and earn a credential, um, like the building operators certification credential, for example. So all of that information is listed on our website, and we invite you to take a look. And if you know of or work with CBEs, please, by all means, let them know of this program that is available to them at no cost. Wow, and I know we've said a lot. You've heard a lot today. We thank you for your patience and sticking with us. As I mentioned earlier, your assigned account manager will help you navigate through all of the programs that we just mentioned and point you to the appropriate resources. Please visit our website if you do not have an assigned account manager, and you can view our experts and see which vertical markets they cover. If you have any questions, of course, you can reach out directly to me as well. But book some time with our team to kind of demystify and help you through all the information that has been presented to you today. And I think with that said, here's my contact information along with Patty's, should you have any questions. And yeah, I think we're up at our Q&A session now. Yes. So let me click over. Kaylin, do we have questions?
We have plenty of questions. I'm coming back. Welcome
Okay.
everybody. All right. And thank you guys. I saw you posting, and thank you also, Teresa. You were a champ in the chat, answering a lot of these questions. I'm gonna go back to the top of everything. Just I know that Teresa's answered a lot of these questions, but just so we have them, just so we can address them via voice as well. And for as I get through the questions on the chat, folks can raise their hand as well. I'm going to go through all the chat questions first because those came in first. But if you would like to voice your question, I just ask that you raise your hand here. And then I'll call on you, and then you can, respond that way. So I'll go through. Is the first question was from GM, and it was how do we find out if our building does not meet BEPS? And Teresa posted the opendatadc.gov /datasets. I'm copying it and pasting it into the chat again, just as a reference.
Yes.
All right. And then next up, the next question I see is and if I mispronounce anybody's name, I do apologize immediately. And I'm seeing everybody's abbreviated names on this thing. So I think Mathat P, if you sell a building after selecting a pathway, is the buyer still committed to that pathway? And I believe Teresa answered that. So if Teresa, you wanted to answer it again, or you want me to read your response, I can, however.
Sure. In summary, no. And actually, I mean, buildings are allowed to change compliance pathways after April 3rd. You will need to submit a pathway change request. But I will caution everybody that it might be more difficult to change into the prescriptive pathway, as there are interim milestones, almost every year between now and the end of the compliance cycle. So, you can change. You're not held to that forever, but just familiarize yourself with the pathways and with their milestones and requirements so that you can make that informed decision.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Trace. Again, I'm going to go right to Christopher S.'s question there, and I know you answered this one as well, but if you select a performance pathway, don't reduce site EUI by 20%, but do reach the standard of 71 Energy Star score, would you be considered compliant?
Yeah, I don't actually know, Patty, if you have any other information on this as well, but my understanding is that you would probably want to let them know as soon as you think you know, that you might be meeting a different pathway.
Yep.
And request, if you can, to switch into that pathway. I know that I'm not sure if they will change any of the enforcement rules. I'm not quite sure yet, but I don't know, Patty, if you have anything else to add.
Well, I guess it would depend if you're 5% away from the standard target. It might not make. I'm not going to tell you not to do the prescriptive pathway, because the prescriptive pathway definitely guarantees, if you follow all the steps, that you will be in compliance. So that is one of the benefits of the prescriptive pathway. But it might not be the one you would like to choose if you're only 5% away or something like that, because you can do a lighting project or some controls projects and get to the standard of 71. So that I don't know if that answers your question, but that's a little bit more that I would add.
Yeah, I think the question was more like performance, switching from performance into standard. Not
I mean, you're able to change your pathway, right?
Into standard, but I believe so.
Yep. Yeah. If you file it, so if you see that that's what's occurred, then go in and file a change to your pathway. Maybe that answers.
Yeah, that's how I understand it too.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you both. Next up, and I'm scrolling to Ed C's question here. Will DCSEU/DOEE be providing information on how to leverage tax credits from the recent federal climate legislation to comply with the BEPS? What about help for condo buildings and guidance on leveraging tax credits in condo buildings?
Yes, great question. We are writing a resource on those tax credits right now, specifically 179D and 45L, but it will include other information and how to what steps you need to take advantage of those. Because our goal is to not just summarize it, but to tell you what you need to do and what you need to submit and where you need to go. So I hope that will be out. We have I would say it's a 75% draft. So hopefully it will be out very soon.
And that will be on the Innovation Hub website.
Yes, correct? Be on our website. I'll drop that into the chat.
We'll probably put a link to it on from the DCSEU as well. But
all righty, and then we have thank you both again. We have a question from, and I see more questions or chats popping down at the end of the message. We'll get down there. We've got 30 more minutes. The market needs DCSEUs from Paul O. The market needs DOEE, DCSEU to incentivize windows and insulation for the older building stock in DC. Can DOEE comment on this? Anything coming that can help windows and insulation? And I will just note that DOE is not on the call, just for everybody. And Patty, I know you did touch on pay for performance measures, so I'll kick it right to you on windows and insulation.
Sure. We don't have a standard rebate or an incentive specifically for windows and insulation, but if you do the work, that is one of the measures that we could analyze the savings or analyze the change in energy use using pay for performance. I know that in our retrofit accelerator program, it's possible that we may be doing some incentive work and helping to fund windows and insulation for some of the affordable housing. But as of right now, we do not have a line item for windows or insulation. And DOEE might have other programs as well that but it's mostly in the affordable housing space, not in CRE.
Absolutely.
I hope that answered the question.
Thank you. And if it didn't, I believe it was Paul's question. I'm scrolling down, make sure I'm
Paul O, 234. Yep.
Yes. Thank you. Mm-hmm. If it didn't, Paul, just throw another question in the chat. We're getting to the bottom. I saw another comment from Ed C, but I saw that Teresa answered it and offered to for Ed to reach out directly. So please do use Teresa's email there. And I'm going to keep going. Continue. All right. GM says if portfolio manager shows that a building meets BEPS now, how is this information transferred to open data site? And I see Teresa responded immediately, but if Teresa, if you wanted to jump in again.
Yeah, it's a complicated, it's hard to explain. So there's benchmarking and there's BEPS. And the BEPS standard is based on your 2019 benchmarking data. So what you see in open data or the BEPS disclosure is how your building was performing in 2019 and relative to the BEPS, because the BEPS is the standards are set based on all of that data. So they take all of the data from 2019 for a property type. So say your building is office, they take all of the office buildings that are benchmarking, they look at all of the data and they set the median based on that data. So that's why you see, that's what those numbers reflect in open data. And even though you're benchmarking your portfolio manager account, your score might be higher now, that doesn't mean you don't need to do anything for the BEPS. If your building was not compliant based on the 2019 data, you do still need to choose a compliance pathway. If you think that your building will be able to maintain the current level of performance, so say your score is above the BEPS, now, then really what you would need to do is show the district in 2026, right, that your building is still performing at that level. And in order to meet the requirements of the BEPS. But it again depends on the pathway you choose. So I do want to say that you might be performing better now, but you may still not be meeting the BEPS because it was set based on your 2019 data. I hope that explains it. It's sort of a complicated.
Can I add one more little next step? So the DOE took that data from portfolio manager in 2019, and that is the BEPS disclosure. So if you or your representative or whoever it is has gone into portfolio manager and changed the 2019 data, that's different than what is in the disclosure. So there is a form and a process that you need to fill out. If you're like, wait a minute, I put in the wrong data. Actually, this is the right data. You can work with DOEE and go to the link that we put in there for the help desk, the BEPS help desk, and there's a form to fill out. They will work with you. Believe me, DOEE really wants you to succeed at this. So the earlier you get in contact with them, and you'll fill out a ticket, they'll get right in touch with you. They don't want to assess penalties, that's for sure. So they do want to work with you. So if your data has changed and you're like, no, now my data is actually accurate, then they would go through the process and pull new data from portfolio manager, which would update the disclosure. So that's just a little bit added information there.
Thank you, Pat. I'm gonna keep rolling down the chat, but I'm gonna throw something that DOE asked me to post in this chat today. And I'll just really quick about it. They wanted me to throw this bad boy in here. It's just a workshop about spring green roof maintenance and care of honeybees on your roof. This is all, so please do. It's a free webinar. You can attend. So just take a look at the registration link there. And on that note, I will continue down.
Did you see Sarah D's at 238, Kaylin? Are there incentives available to do energy simulation for a building to calculate? So that is basically if you want to read it.
Yes. Are there insensitive? Thank you for catching that. Are there insensitive? Incentives available to energy simulation for a building to calculate the savings for prescriptive measures?
So we don't pay for building simulation at the DCSEU, but if you ended up doing the measures, then we could use pay for performance modeling to calculate what the incentive would be. But we don't fund building simulation. We don't have incentives for building simulation at the DCSEU.
Thank you, Patty, for catching that one as well. So I'm gonna make sure I go back just a little, make sure I got that one. Okay, cool, perfect. GM, and then Got it. Okay. Just calling out that I did post the book time with the DCSEU account manager in the chat, and I see another question from Ed C. Can my building apply for an extension to select a compliance pathway? We weren't aware of the need until March of this year. Our building management company failed to tell the condo board, and the contractor management company uses a parent, and the contractor management company that we use apparently never responded to DOE's request for additional information.
I would say, so you can apply, but it's going to be tough to get an answer. I would say now it's where we're April or March the 28th, and it's due April 3rd. But I would encourage you to still send an email to the DOE using their knowledge base and help desk. I'll put a link in the chat. Establish that line of communication, explain your situation. Like Patty said, they are all focused on this right now. They're here to support you. There is a lot going on, but they want you to succeed. So I would encourage you to put as much information as you can in that help desk ticket, explain your situation. I'm also able to help support you with any decisions or, problem solving, understanding the compliance pathways, any questions you have about that.
And I'll call out that Andre posted it in the chat. I'm reposting again the help desk.
Perfect.
All righty, and let's continue down. And I see another comment from Ed C. And yep, that is coming. I'm going to continue to Sebastian's question here. How could I confirm the data entered in Energy Star portfolio is correct and our ES rating, our Energy Star rating is correct now? It's been fluctuating widely.
Yeah, Patty, I don't know if your account managers or technical support or anyone on your end can help verify that data. I know I would recommend a third-party verification for your data. Everyone, I would recommend everybody do that. Get somebody to look at your data, look at your square footage, make sure it's entered correctly, look at your occupancy, look at your operating hours. Yep. Get a third party to look at that, and they can make recommendations as to what they think could be off or if it is correct.
That's right. And I would add, and you had the date in there, I think it's March 24th of next year. All of the data must be third-party verified for accuracy before you have one more year to be able to do that. So, checking it on your own is great, but having somebody that does it regularly, that's good as well. It's not a standard offering necessarily for us to provide to building owners, but we do have some people that are knowledgeable about BEPS and might be able to take just a first glance at your data to see if anything stands out that could be an error. But again, as Teresa says, getting it third-party verified is required. You still have time to fulfill that requirement, but I would recommend it it's a good idea.
Thank you both again. And next up is GM's question. Who took the data in 2019 and how did they input for a residential with retail spaces?
Yeah, it depends on your specific situation. Each building is different. So I'm not sure who it would be on your end. Sometimes it's a property manager, sometimes it's a third-party data benchmarking consultant, sometimes it is just someone else on staff. So sometimes you can tell by looking in Portfolio Manager and seeing who the what email is listed there as the contact. Otherwise, it would likely be someone on your team or perhaps a predecessor. It's basically someone internal to your building or the building ownership or management team that inputs all of that data into Portfolio Manager. And the way that it's input, Energy Star has a lot of helpful tools and guides and videos on how you put different types of data into the system. So what you put in, how you separate spaces out, how you categorize spaces. So for example, in a building with residential above and retail ground floor, there are explanations on how you put the square footage and the usage and the fuel and the meters and all of that. And it's all done internally on the building side, but it depends on your building. I'm happy to look it up too and see what I can find on the BEPS disclosure to see if I can help you figure out who that was.
All right, and I saw that. Thank you again, Teresa, and thank you, Crystal, for posting that Train Green playlist that has a course on verifying benchmarking data.
Yeah, Energy Star Portfolio Manager itself has so many good training resources that you can. We've hired people to work at the DCSEU to help with this, and they go straight to the Portfolio Manager website and take the trainings.
Yes. And there's one more question in the chat, and that's from Paul O. Should DCSU discuss the pilot solar incentive here for the future of BEPS, or too confusing?
Teresa, are you? I know there was some legislation or discussion around allowing solar. If you install solar, can it help reduce your EUI so that you can comply with BEPS? I'm not prepared. I don't know what the most recent status of that is.
Yeah, I don't either. It's evolving quickly.
Yeah.
I know that currently it can support you with the standard target pathway because it is solar PV is an input into Energy Star Portfolio Manager that ultimately affects your Energy Star score. Right. So I don't think it currently will help you with the performance pathway, but in terms of the more broad, alignment between solar and BEPS, I know that the district government, DOE, is very aware of the questions and the potential. Definitely working on what that could look like, but I don't know the latest. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. I'm scrolling down. Thank you, Duke, for posting the Energy Star FAQ page. Much appreciated. I don't see any more questions. I'm just gonna also post, I don't know if I did, so I'm gonna post it just if I did again, the Energy Audit Incentive page, just for you all to take a gander. As well, it has at the bottom, if you're confused about who to look for who is a DCSU participating auditor, they're right there at the bottom of the page, and it has the whole process all on the page and a lot that you need to know, the step-by-step process there. All right, if there's any more questions, feel free to throw them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. I'm gonna raise mine just so everybody can see it. Yep, that's what it looks like. And I'll call you out, and you can voice your question if you like. But I'll give us maybe 3 more minutes, maybe 3:15, 3:16-ish, if I don't see any typing or hands going up and down for us to call it. But thank you all again. I just will reiterate one more time. I know you're probably sick of me saying it. These slides and recording will be shared to you after this meeting. Give me about 2 days, and I'll get them out to you guys. To everyone who registered. And I see Ernest has a question, so has his hand up. So Ernest, take it away.
I actually have a comment. I just want to say thanks to everyone that took the time to log in today and participate. And do not hesitate to reach out to us. I want to thank all of our partners representing DOE, as well as our DCSEU team. Thank you very much. And together we can do this. Thank you very much.